Well, as I always say, Mondays are the most boring day starting the week. However, I decided, let's make this even more funner. Now, for this particular episode, I'm actually going to do something that I haven't done for quite some time, and I think this is one of the biggest episodes I've ever done because it's all about the Japanese wrestling today. The reasons I chose this day because it's funny, we have the beginning of New Japan Pro Wrestling World Tag League. So right now we're entering with the first stages of that. So right now we're going to focus on the A block. But however, I decided, you know what? There's plenty of Japanese wrestling I can put on this particular episode in one lump sum. So I thought, let's do that. So first things first, we're going to be reviewing is PPP Tokyo with Mariak Kobashi produced show known as called Going Gyau Way. This took place exactly on the same day as Bayside Party on November 4th. And then, of course, there was a very interesting independent show that took place by Fighting TV Samurai. Basically, there's a lot of wrestlers from various promotions and freelancers. So we're only going to see five matches involved. And then, of course, we move on with Pro Wrestling Noah with Sunny Voyage that took place on the 12th of November, featuring a couple of matches, of course, and of course, preview matches before the next big pay per view. And then we move on with a very unique match that took place by DDT Pro Wrestling. You may have known they have done wacky matches before in the past. This one is a very new one they have started called Houseboat Pro Wrestling. So basically, there's going to be wrestling inside of a houseboat. So I thought that's going to be interesting. And then, of course, we move on with 2 days of All Japan Pro Wrestling with the Real World Tag League and the Junior Battle Glory. So basically, we have day 2 and day 3 to focus upon. And then, of course, we finally move on with our last. I decided to save this one the best for last for all of you. New Japan Pro Wrestling with day 1 of World Tag League. We're only going to focus on, of course, the Block A matches. So we'll see about that. And, of course, we got some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as any wrestlers that have been signed or departing from promotions, who's booked, what matches are set, and all this other stuff. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos where we talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, the titles, wherever we want to talk about. We also do some news updates in case I'm unable to put it on this episode, and of course, various other cool stuff. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us on the subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool stuff on this channel. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or leave us a nice comment down below. Now, let's begin with our very first review, and this is from PPP Tokyo with Mariak Kobashi produced Going Gyau Way. This took place on the 4th of November, around the same time as Bayside Party, which is 2 shows in the same day. Now, I'm not sure if this show took place before or prior before before or after Bayside Party. So that's something I'm still not clear. But however, this is a very interesting show because this is Mariak Kobashi's self-produced show, and many freelancers have done this. So it's very interesting that she has done this one herself. Of course, Mariak Kobashi comes out with doing a little promo, introduces various people, especially those who work in the promotion themselves. And of course, we started out with our very first match. Now we only have 3 matches that Mariak Kobashi was able to produce. The first one, we have a singles match. We have Ayato Yoshida versus Jun Masaoka. Now, the match was pretty good. I mean, it felt like it was a starter of a match, how you want it. However, the party was interrupted by, out of nowhere, against opponents who will be facing Mariak Kobashi in the main event, none other than Takayuki Oiki and, of course, Kentaro Hashizu. Now, I don't know what is their purpose. I mean, they kind of disrupt the party. Mariak Kobashi just can't believe that these 2 idiots ruined it. But I'm sure she'll get her little payback in the end. Now, our next match, we had a bit of an interesting 5-way match. We have Riara versus Transam Hiroshi versus Shoji Otani versus Ichika Miyabi. And then, of course, we got Cherry. Now, this was a bit of a wacky thing, but Cherry, in the other hand, I would have assumed she would have found a way by, win this match by using submission. But no, she decided to play a little mind games with everybody. Or should I say, brought out her little childish attitude for some odd reason. And she was able to pin everyone at the same time. Basically, it's kind of like the ghetto clutch, but you don't kind of like it, but all 4 of them in it. So Cherry picked up the win. So that was impressive. Now our main event is a trios match. Team number 1, we have the guys who spoiled the first match, Kentaro Hashizu, Takayuki Oiki, and of course Surimi Natsu. They take on the Brahman brothers, Shu and Kei. They team up with Mariak Kobashi. Now, this match became a bit more aggressiveness in every way possible because, of course, now the Brahman brothers, they're violent. These guys are the most violent team ever. Not to mention, they brought the little suitcase with them. But of course, there was some interesting moments I did enjoy. Of course, Hashizu and Yuiki were in the corner sitting down until accidentally Sarumi Natsu's head hit Oiki's nuts, and then of course she got stuck in there. But luckily, the Brahman brothers have a little plan, so they brought out a little suitcase, and then they tag in Mariak Kobashi with the bowling ball, hit the bowling ball with the suitcase, hitting Surumi Natsu and everybody else, and then the little strike. Yep. So basically, they brought in a bowling reference. But however, the ref had enough of course, Hashizu and Yuki playing mind games, but those idiots accidentally touched Marisa Surumi Natsu's breast, and she got mad and walked out, leaving those 2 idiots by themselves. But luckily, Mariak Kobashi and the ref took out those 2 idiots once and for all with a somewhat of a tornado DDT. Mariak Kobashi pinned Hashizu 1, 2, 3. It was fun. I have to say, this is a fun match. A fun show. I'm sure we will see more of her self-produced shows in the future. I'm not gonna say this is gonna be a one-off, but I say she did a pretty good job to keep us entertained and all that. So we'll see what happens. So I think that's pretty much it right now for this particular promotion. I believe it's time for Fighting TV Samurai Fan Thanksgiving. Okay, now this is a freelance wrestling show, no promotions involved, but I do know that like a television network known as Samurai TV or something got involved in this and made this show happen by booking various wrestlers, either who are freelancers or certain wrestlers are from different promotions. So yeah, you'll be seeing that. But our first half of the show, we normally see the Yoshi wrestlers taking place, and then we have the guys do the end. But in the middle, there's something interesting that took place. So let's get started on that. Now this show particularly happened on the 5th of November. I want to clarify this one. This was on November 5th. Our first match, we have a bit of a trios match. We have Hamuko Hoshi teaming up with Ayako Sato from Diana, and of course a veteran Sakura Ito. Now, if you guys know who Hamuko Hoshi is, she is from Ice Ribbon. Their opponents are none other than Arisa Shinoi's. Don't know much about her, but this one you do know. She is the current Ice Infinity champion. Hibuki Oshi, who in fact is the daughter of Imuku, who will be her opponent across. However, who was going to be her third partner? Well, this one was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't too sure if we ever see her wrestling this soon. As you know, she's been on maternity leave, which is none other than Tsukasa Fujimoto. I wasn't too sure about that because we know she did had a one-off match not too long ago, but it appears that she came back. I wouldn't be surprised if Ibuki Hoshi asked her to come back, because I'm not sure if Fujimoto is in fact like her godmother or something. I mean, she's always been there throughout her career, training her. She knew her as a little girl, but it was great to see her. However, this was a very strong match, but but I wasn't too sure how this one was going to go. But however, of course, Sakura Hirota was going to do the up to the up to the women's butthole whenever she wanted to. But however, it was of course a diving body press on Shinose by Hamuko Hoshi to pick up the win. So that's a pretty good one right there. Now, our next match, we do have another trios match with the Yoshis. We have Kao Masushita from Ice Ribbon. She teams up with Gleets, Yukari Hosokawa, and then, of course, we got Colors and the current champion, Rina Amikura. They take on, of course, Ryo Mizunami, Lady Destroyer Hiroyo Matsumoto, and, of course, the legend herself, Aja Kong. Now, this was a very interesting one because you look at Mizunami, Matsumoto, and Aja Kong. These three ladies are powerhouses. You probably would have seen that this is one of those matches where, of course, they would rip off their opponent's heads off. Well, that would be, like that. But in the back of my mind, I would have thought probably this match was going to win by Aja Kong with a back fist or so. But no, I mean, I have to say Matsushita, Ozukawa, and Amikura did everything in their power, but there were still no match for the powerhouses of Mizunami, Matsumoto, and Aja Kong. But it was Matsumoto with a backdrop onto Matsushita to pick up the win. So Lady Destroyer picked up the win. Now, our last Joshi wrestling match is also another trios. We have team number 1 consistent of Riko Kaiju from Seedling. She teams up with none other than Unagi Sayaka, and of course, the Ice Queen, and of course, freelancer Maya Yuhiki. Now, it's very interesting because Riko Kaiju is one half of the tag team champions in Seedling, while Unagi is the first inaugural world champion for Kitsune. Now, their opponents are none other than Aruka Umasaki, the current Diana world champion, and of course Saki, who is a Spark champion, and their opponent is none other than someone from Seedling, Arisa Nakajima. However, everybody shook hands except for Unagi. I don't know, Nagi's was not feeling it. But however, much of this match kind of focused on the two ladies from the promotion Seedling, Riko Kaiju and Arisa Nakajima. But it was, of course, a dragon suplex by Nakajima onto Kaiju to pick up the win. Now, the show took a bit of a break because they brought in a couple of special guests. Now, first two guests, the talk right side to side during interview is none other than Kaito Kiyomiya from Pro Wrestling Noah, and of course, the retired Keiji Muto. Now, I don't know what they were saying, but they had a very good talk and nice conversation. And then the next person who showed up is none other than Chono and the roughneck Shota Umino. So I thought it was interesting. The reason these guys were like this, you look at Chono and Keiji, why were they Keiji Muto, why they were there? They played mentors to these wrestlers. I mean, you got to remember, Keiji Muto gave the blessing to Kaito Kiyomiya to do the Shining Wizard, much like Sonata does, And as for Shota Umino, he had to learn from Masaori Chono when Keiji Muto retired. So that pretty much says it all. Now, our next match, we have the men's taking place. We have Kentaru Hoshino, Abdullah Kobayashi, and Banten Blabla. They take on the guys from DDT, Gorgeous Matsuno, Makuto Oshi, and Dansuko Dino. Now, of course, I was going to notice that Dino was going to breed with his wildish, freakish ways to try to win. But however, there were moments where, of course, Abdullah, he decided to take a little bit of the extreme with Gorgeous Matsuno. Was it Matsuno? Yeah, Matsuno. But Matsuno could not move, so the ref made the decision to stop. Now, I don't know what Kobayashi said to him during the post-match. I'm sure that Matsuno would get his revenge for that particular loss. So we'll see where that leads us to that. Now, our next match, which is our main event, we have a 10-man tag match. Team number 1, we have from DDT Mao. We have Shoki Kitamura, Takayuki Inori, Yuya Aoki, and of course from Michinoku Pro Wrestling, and you guys just saw him at Super Junior Tag League, Musashi. They take on Yuko Miyamoto from Freedoms, Arashima from DDT, Daisuke Sekimoto, Kazunari Makamura, and then of course we have Masato Tanaka. So you probably would have seen there's going to be a lot of, you can see that there is like the generational wrestlers in one side from another, the younger generation and the older. So that played out pretty good in the match. But in the end of this, it was a tiger suplex by Aoki onto Sekimoto, to pick up the win just like that. So the younger wrestlers picked up the win. What do I think about the show? Pretty good, I have to say. Very interesting variations of wrestlers from different promotions or the freelancers, but I'm okay with it. So I think that's pretty much it for this one. I believe we are going to be heading now to Pro Wrestling Noah. Okay, Pro Wrestling Noah Sunny Voyage. This took place on the 13th, no, was it? No, the 12th of November. Now, our opening match, we had a very interesting 6-man tag match. We have team number 1, Yu Owada, Hiroki, and he's super and he's crazy, super crazy. They take on Taichi Osawa, Hajime Ohara, and Atsushi Kotoge. Very interesting team up. Now, I know that Hiroki and Kotoge have teamed up in the past, but it's kind of interesting that they're opposites from each other. But it's also interesting that Kotoge teams up with Hajime. The last time these two teamed up together, Hajime was part of the Noah Junior Regular Army, but he turned his back on them because, of course, of Yohei. But they are willing to work together no matter what, even if the Noah Juniors no longer exist. So it was a pretty good match. However, it was, of course, Ohara who picked up a very interesting match when he applied a backbreaker on, who was it? Osawa? Yeah, Owada, actually. Owada, and it was over right from there. Pretty good match. Next up, we have tag team action. We have Extreme Tiger and Alejandro taking on the guys from Real, consisting of Shuhei, Taniguchi, and Saxon Huxley. Now, if you notice the team here, you look at Team Tiger Mask, no, Extreme Tiger and Alejandro. They're junior heavyweight competitors. You look at Real, they are heavyweight competitors. So right now you have the two different strengths from these guys. You look at Alejandro and Tiger with their speed capability, while you look at Real with their strength and power. That will play out pretty well. However, the speed was no longer the issue on this one because it was in fact Taniguchi with a submission onto Extreme Tiger to pick up the win. Now, our next match is a singles match. We have Kai Fujimura taking on Leona. Now, Leona, he's a very badass dude, very dangerous in the ring. Not to mention, he's the kind of guy you don't want to piss off. But of course, Fujimura, who should know better not to tempt him, which he did, that resulted of him being on the wrong side of a somewhat of a figure four leg lock and forced him to tap out. Now, our next match, we have tag team action. We have Stallion Rogers teaming up with Go Shiozaki. They take on Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. and, of course, the murder machine, Takashi Sugiura. So that was a very interesting development in the match. However, it was Sugiura who got slammed down by uh, Rogers got slammed down by Sugiura to pick up the win, and that was it. Now, our next match, a very interesting matchup. As you know, this is pretty much of a preview for two men. This is a six-man tag match. We have Hayata, Eita, and Manabu Soya. They take on Ninja Mac, Teriyaki, and Keno. Now, if you guys remember clearly, Keno and Manabu Soya is the current GHC heavyweight champion. Manabu Soya issued the challenge for that title, so that's going to be interesting. I have to say, you probably would have assumed, but however, Teriyaki was unfortunately the one who tried his best to take out a powerhouse like Manabu Soya, but Manabu Soya put him away right away, and boom, just like that, with a big lariat, and he locked his head off. 1, 2, 3, it was over. But you know for a fact, Keno has to be prepared for his old teammate, Manabu Soya. Now, our next match is a singles match. We have Daiki Inaba versus Anthony Green. Now, this is also a much crucial match because there's a championship implication. Anthony Green is one half of the GHC heavyweight tag team champions. Now, if Daiki Inaba was able to pin him, he could very much have an opportunity for the tag titles. But however, Inaba was able to apply a somewhat of a driver to put away Anthony Green. Now, he hasn't acknowledged that he's willing to challenge for those tag belts unless he has a tag partner. So we'll see where that leads us. Next up, we have Junta Miyawaki and Shuji Kondo. They take on the members of Stinger, consisting of Yoshinori Ogawa and Daga. Now, of course, Stinger has always been known as one of the strongest junior heavyweight competitors in Pro Wrestling Noah, which, of course, I often say that I always find the junior heavyweight division in Noah more fascinating than New Japan, out of respect, knowing that they have a different flavor than any other junior heavyweight division I've ever watched. So we'll see about that. Now, how did this play out? I have to say it's pretty well. I did mention that Kondo did pick up a win against Daga, so he will have a championship opportunity against Daga. But however, this is a bit of a preview for before that. But however, it was Daga with a lariat and Miyawaki to pick up a win and sending a message to Kondo that he has to try harder to take him out. Now, our next match is a 10-man tag match. We have Rohi Oiwa, Masa Kitamiya, Keito Kiyomiya, Dragonbane, and Alpha Wolf. They take on 5 members of the great good-looking guys, GLG, consisting of Tadasuke, Yohei, LJ Cleary, Jack Morris, and Jake Lee. So there's a very good implications of this type. Now, keep in mind, Jack Morris is a double champion. He is the current GHC heavyweight tag champion with Anthony Green and the current GHC national champion. So there's a lot of implications in this one. However, it was, of course, Morris with a underhook power bomb onto Kiyomiya to pick up the win. So right now, as you know, GLG are trying to maintain their status. It's one of the strongest teams due to the fact that Jake Lee lost the belt to Keno. So we'll see where that leads them from here on out. So I think that's pretty much it right now with Pro Wrestling Noah. Let's move on with DDT Pro Wrestling. Okay, DDT Pro Wrestling. Now, If you guys know DDT Pro Wrestling too well, you know that they are a different type of promotion where they throw in a bit of the comedy and a bit of some wackiness to do in the ring. Now, let me give you guys a bit thing so you guys can understand. The first impression I ever got of DDT, that they were a very unique promotion outside of what others are doing. It didn't matter if it was in Japan or in the States or in Mexico, but they have a different type of uniqueness that I ever seen. The first time I ever seen DDT, it was back in December of 2020 when they were doing like their little wacky matches in the middle of Tokyo in streets, like in shopping malls, restaurants, a water park, all that other stuff. Now I wasn't aware they've been doing all of that for years, but much recent they did some shows from last year and the year before that on trains. So basically that was interesting. However, the day after their Ultimate Party show, they actually had an event that took place called Houseboat uh, Pro Wrestling. So basically, there was supposed to be a match in the houseboat. Originally, it was supposed to be the boss, Shinjiro Takagi versus Mao, but however, Mao was unable to compete due to he was already beaten up from the night before. So he ended up being in a match against Yuki Oino. So, however, it became Shinjiro Takagi versus the KOD Openweight Champion Yuki Oino. And of course, we have Shuna Katsumata and Toi Kojima being there, and so is Makoto Oshii. So the match was pretty good. It started with just those two. And then all of a sudden, when Takagi was saying that, he looked at Makoto Oshii telling him, "Hey, I'll give you 15,000 yen for if you help me out." So Makoto had, of course, obliged to the offer, but luckily, of course, Yuki Ueno's teammate Toi Kojima was there to help him. So it became a straight up tag match, and then of course it went outside of the area where they're in, and they were still in sea wrestling. However, there was a moment where you see Shuna Katsumata. He was playing karaoke. Yeah, yeah, he was karaokeing, and then of course Toi Kojima heard it, and so he decided to join the party, and then everybody decided to crash it. But for some odd reason, the boat landed came into shore in another section of Tokyo Bay. I'm not sure exactly where, but all of a sudden we saw the appearance of none other than Tetsuya Endo being there, and he wasn't alone. He brought in Sumi. Have no clue what was the purpose. However, they decided to attack both Takagi and Oshii. They beat them up while, of course, Ueno and Kojima were just watching. They have no clue what to make of it. So as soon as that happened, they went outside, they beat them up, and then of course they brought in some tape and taped both of them up. But as soon as they finished taping them up, the boat left, leaving Takagi and Oshii in the back in shore. So they left them behind, all tied up. So the match went directly into another tag. Well, basically you got rid of one team, another team in stepped up. Of course, Tetsuya Endo and Sumi taking on all the Toi Kojima and Yuki Oino. So that kind of focused on that. So I wouldn't be surprised if the only reason Endo was there because he knows if he pins Yuki Ueno, he could get an opportunity of the KO, the openweight champion, which of course he never lost that belt before. I mean, he had it relinquished after what happened with him and Kojima about a year or two ago during Cyberfest. But I thought it was a very interesting match. But however, in the end, it was of course a very interesting match between Ueko no Pin Sumi when he went through through a chair, and it was over from there. However, apparently now I did mention this before during the post match. I mentioned this before. DDT has done many wacky things. I mean, they did wrestling shows in trains and now boats. But one of Kojima's biggest ambition, let's do this in planes. I'm like, oh wow, that's a ambition. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of complications because you got to be seated belt if you're on a plane. But I'm sure they'll figure something out. So, what do you guys think? Now, I have to say, I like the show, even though it's very different from what I normally see, but it's really fun. I enjoyed it. So, I think that's it right now with DDT Pro Wrestling. I believe it's time for All Japan Pro Wrestling. Okie dokie. All Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, as you know, they started with their annual tournament, which is Real World Tag League. So they will be involved in that. And of course, the other tournament, Junior Battle of Glory. So basically, they're doing two tournaments in the same tour. So that's kind of interesting to do. Now, I did review day one on this one. So those are still in the early stages on that one. Now, let's get started with day two, which took place on November 15th. Now, our first match is a Junior Battle of Glory match. We have Hikaru Sato taking on Noriki Doi. Now, these two competitors, they lost on day one. So basically, they were in the bottom. So I have to say it's a great start for them. But however, how this was going to go down. However, last time, Noriki Doi attacked his opponent, but lost because he thought attacking him early was going to be the advantage. Well, apparently that did not happen because apparently Hikaru Sato did the same thing. But out of nowhere, near the end of this match, it was Doi who picked up a huge win by applying an inside cradle onto Sato, giving him his first 2 points. So right now he is 1-1, one loss and one loss and one win. As for Sato, he's still winless, so he hasn't picked up a win yet. Now we jump into our next two matches, part of the Real World Tag League. Team number one, we have, of course, Bulk Orchestra, Galeno del Mal, and Hayato Tamura taking on Shuji Ishikawa and Ren Ayabe. Now this is a very good match because there's some powerhouses in this particular match, as I've seen. I wasn't too sure how this was going to be, but luckily it was a running knee strike by Ishikawa to Tamura to pick up his first win. So right now, of course, as much as they were at the bottom, they Ishikawa and Ayabe pick up their first win with 2 points. So they're one win and one loss. As for Bulk Orchestra, well, they're still 0. We move on with the next team. We have Kojuro Tokyo, Japan, and Shigeo Tachinaba. They take on a very team that doesn't get along very well. Hideki Suzuki and Suwama. Now, you know those two guys don't get along well because they're two of the strongest competitors. I wasn't too sure how this was going to go, but luckily it was, in fact, Suzuki who picked up the win by pinning Tachibana in this. I'm sure they're going to try to get along as possible, but I highly doubt it. Now we jumping into a non-tournament match. We have a very interesting one. We have Hiroshi Yamato and Ryuji Ijikawa. They take on Ryo Inoue and Blackman Suri. Well, I can tell you this is a pretty good match, but it was, of course, Hijikata who picked up the win by pinning Blackman Suri. Nothing special about that, but it was pretty good. Now let's jump in back to the tournament with more of the Real World Tag League match. We have Yuma Anzai and Ryoki Honda. They take on Hakumoto Ori and Katsuhiko Nakajima. Now, Mori and Nakajima, well, they are a team, but Nakajima, he likes to, be his own person, even when it suits him. That's something that I like about this match. But however, wasn't too sure how this was going to go, but it was Nakajima with the vertical brain buster onto who was it? Onto Yumanzai to pick up the win. Excuse me. Now we jump in with another Junior Battle of Glory. We have Rising Hayato and then Tamura. Now, many people, hold on. I failed to mention Omori and Nakajima. They're currently with 2 wins, so basically they are undefeated. While their opposing team, Anzai and Honda, they are 0. Now, again, let's jump in with Junior Battle Glory match. We have Rising Hayato and Dan Tamura. Now, Hayato was successful in day 1, but he has a big challenge ahead of him against a strong competitor like Dan Tamura. Now, many people were hoping that Rising Hayato, who is the fan favorite, was going to win this one. But however, the powerhouse of Dan Tamura was undeniably good until he applied a power bomb to put away, giving him his 2 first points. So basically, Hayato currently right now is 1-1. Same thing with Dan Tamura. So we'll see where that leads us there as well. Now, our second match for the Junior Battle of Glory, we have Asuki Aoyagi and Koji Iwamoto. Now, I don't know what this match was like. I was like, wow, fantastic. But somehow there was supposed to be a winner, but unfortunately, this was the first ever time. Right now, we have a time limit draw in 10 minutes. Now, I was surprised they said 10 minutes. I thought it would have been like maybe 30 minutes or so, 20 or 30 minutes, but no. So it ended with time limit draw, each competitor getting 1 point. Aoyagi, who was successful with his first win, he gets 3 points in total, with one win and a draw. As for Koji Iwamoto, who was not present in day one, he gets 1 point. So kind of very interesting. Now our next and final two matches are involved in the Real World Tag League. Team number one, we have Ryan Davidson and Cyrus. They take on the Voodoo Murder, more specifically the Saito brothers, Jun and Ri. So there was going to be a lot of powerhouse in this particular match, which was very interesting to watch. However, who was going to be the powerhouse to walk away? Well, I would have assumed that this match was going to go straight to, of course, the Saito brothers, because it was Ri with the diving body press onto Davidson to pick up the win. So right now, um, the Voodoo Murders are currently undefeated with 4 points with 2 wins. As for Davidson and Cyrus, 2 points with 1 win and 1 loss. Now our next and main event, we have Kento Miyahara and Yuma Aoyagi. They take on the members of Eruption, consistent of Hideki Okatani and Yukio Sakaguchi. You thought this match was going to be good, but I have to say Okatani, who I've seen how much he has grown. I mean, he was part of the Drew Nakayama faction for a while until he decided to join Eruption. He has grown so much, but I love what the strength that he pulled in. He knew that Miyahara was about to apply his finisher, the German suplex, but it wasn't enough strength to put him to stop him from that until Miyahara applied it. 1, 2, 3, it was done like that. So I have to say, good start for day 2 in both tournaments. But let's move on right now with day 3 of All Japan Pro Wrestling. We continue with more of All Japan Pro Wrestling with Real World Tag League and Junior Battle of Glory. Now, this is day 3 that took place on the 19th of November. So basically, we're still in the early stages at this point. However, we will see how this progresses. Now, our first match is the Junior Battle of Glory match. We have Ryo Inoue and Rising Hayato. Now, Inoue lost in his first round, but he faces a guy who already won and lost the match. So I wasn't too sure how this was going to play out, because Rising Hayato is one of those wrestlers that, to me, I felt he should have been already junior heavyweight champion right about now, but he hasn't. But unfortunately, there was a moment where he was about to apply a springboard moonsault onto Inoue, but Inoue got out of the way until, of course, Inoue applied a somewhat of a different type of suplex to pick up the win, giving him his first 2 points. So basically, he's already 1 loss and 1 win. As for Hayato, he is currently with 2 losses and 1 win. So that kind of sucks. So I hope he picks up the pace on day 4. Now, our next match is the Real World Tag League match. We have Shuji Ishikawa and Ren Ayabe. They take on Eruptions, Hideki Okatani and Yukio Sakaguchi. So I thought this match was going to be very interesting because, of course, I know Okatani and Sekiguchi do have tag titles from them. I don't know if it's the world tag titles, but they put up a hell of a match. But I did like how Sekiguchi was able to give a helping hand to Okatani to pick up the win when, of course, Okatani was about to apply a somewhat of a crucifix on Ishikawa, but it was, of course, a big momentum by Sakaguchi to push him down in order for him to pick up the win, giving him the first 2 points. So right now, we have 2-2 at this point, 2 wins and 2 losses. Two wins and 2 losses from Eruption. As for Ichikawa and Renayabe, well, I think they have 1 win and 1 loss, or 2. I lost track on that one, but yes. Now we move into our next match, which is a non-tournament matchup. We have a 6-man tag match. We have Yoshitatsu, Blackman Suri, and of course Ikemen Jiro, who goes by Kuroshio Tokyo, Japan. So basically doing his little nonsense. However, they're facing against a much serious team. We're talking about Okudo Omori, Naoki Tanizuki, and of course the current Triple Crown champion Nakajima. So I had a feeling that someone was gonna piss off Nakajima, and it turned out to be the one guy who likes to play games himself, is Black Mensuri. So he pissed him off completely. So Nakajima devoured him with the vertical suplex, vertical brainbuster, and it was over from there. So I wish I would said to Black Mensuri that you got not the F out, boy. So that's what he gets for pissing off Nakajima. Now, back to the tournament. We have the Real World Tag League match. We have Bulk Orchestra, Hayato Tamura, and Galeno de Mal with their surprise opponents. And of course, Tamura was not happy that he has to deal with them yet again. We're talking about the Saito brothers, Jun and Rei. Now, the reason I say this is why. As you know, the Saito brothers are the current Bleach Tag Team Champions, the G Infinity Champions. They won those titles from Tamura and Check Shimatani a couple of months ago. But however, will this be a little different from the last time? You probably would have thought maybe Tamura would have gotten his revenge against the Saito brothers, but unfortunately, they couldn't finish off Bulk Orchestra as they want, because the X factor is Galeno de Mal is a huge dude. Bigger dude, much bigger than Rei Sato, but they were able to apply a pile driver to put him away to pick up the win. So right now at this point, Bulk Orchestra has 2 losses and 1 win with 2 points. But as for the Saito brothers, they're currently undefeated with 6 points with 3 wins. So most likely they could be the potential winners for this tournament. Now let's jump in with, of course, a Junior Battle of Glory match. We have Dan Tamura taking on Atsuki Aoyagi. Now, you probably would have assumed that Atsuki Aoyagi would have been the fan favorite to win, but Tamura, who's shown a bit of his powerhouse yet again, like he did with Rising Hayato, played out pretty well until he applied a power bomb onto Aoyagi to pick up the win. So right now, Dan Tamura is currently with 4 points, with 2 wins and 1 loss. As for Aoyagi, he only has 1 win, 1 draw, and a loss. So basically, kind of predicament right here. But he'll get bounced back to it as much as possible. Now, our last 2 matches is part of the Real World Tag League. We are team number 1. We have Ryan Davidson and Cyrus. They take on the, of course, unlikely teams Suwama and Hideki Okatani. So there was going to be a lot of powerhouses in this particular match as well. However, there was a match moment where Suwama, he went down fighting as much as possible, trying to hold on. But however, it was Suzuki who ended up on the wrong side of a Vader bomb by none other than Cyrus, picking up the win. So currently, Ryan Davis and Cyrus have 2 points and 1 loss. 2 points with 4 points with 2 wins and 1 loss. As for Suwama and Hideki, they currently have 2 points with 1 win and 2 losses. So I wouldn't be surprised if they can't get along great. Now, our main event, we have Kento Miyahara and Yuma Aoyagi. They take on Yuma Anzai and Ruki Honda. I thought this match was going to be great, but however, unfortunately, with the intensity of this match, it ended in a time limit draw with 30 minutes. So basically, I'm sure they're disappointed this match ended this way, but it is what it is, how it ends. So I'm sure they'll be back to this in no time. So I think that's pretty much it right now with All Japan. So let's move on with the our last one, which I saved for last for all of you, New Japan Pro Wrestling World Tag League. So right now we have begun with New Japan Pro Wrestling with World Tag League. Much like any other tournament, it's the same thing. You win 2 points, you get no points if you lose, or a time limit draw, 1 point each. The same thing. With this, you get an opportunity of the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles, which of course is in the possession of Bushiman. So we'll see about how that turns up. Now, let's just focus on those matches because right now there's only 2 blocks involved. So let's begin with Block A. Now, our first match, we have the Gates of Agony making their debut in New Japan. They face against TMDK, Haste and Nichols. As you know, they are one of those teams that are more particularly they could win this match. I thought there was a pretty good, interesting match on this one because you look at the Gates of Agony. They do have a lot of power, but however, the experience that Nichols and Hayes have together as a team for many years have always played a good factor in this one. But luckily, they were able to apply a very good, impressive win by applying the Tank Buster on Bishop Khan, leaving Hayes to pin him 1, 2, 3. It's over. So right now, TMDK only has 2 points with their first very win. And as for the Gates of Agony, since this is their first time, they get 0. Now our next match, well, the most hated team ever, again, the House of Torture. We're talking about Yujiro Takahashi and Evil being there. They take on the members of Chaos, more specifically Toriyano and Tomohiro Ishii. Now Evil goes out saying, that there's some beef history between him and Ishii, saying it dates back to the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandpappies or something like that. I don't know. But of course, when it comes to the House of Torture, we cannot overlook the fact that when the referee is out, here comes Sho, Kanemaru, and of course Dick Togo to ensure that this match was going to go. Now I know that Yano and Ishii would do whatever it takes to hold their ground because they're on their own. But unfortunately that wasn't the case because of course it was Yano who ended up on wrong side of a mist, and then of course everything is Evil, and just like that, the House of Torture once again they get another win, just like that. But Ishii was not going to tolerate this, but of course I highly doubt that House of Torture are going to win this match, the entire tournament. Now our next match we have the Bullet Club War Dogs, more consistently Alex Coughlin and Gabriel Kidd. They face against Rohi Oiwa and Kento Kiyomiya. Now, if you guys remember clearly, there's been some unresolved issues towards Kiyomiya and Kidd. Because Kidd, who always claims that he's the future ace, that I'm gonna beat your ass up because you guys are done. You're nothing. He goes out with his little usual rants about saying he's better than everyone. But when it comes to Kiyomiya, he doesn't back down for nothing. Now, of course, there was going to be a lot of composure, but someone did comment this on social media. Why can't we just have those two have a match and they hash it out, please? I mean, it's obvious that's how it rolls. But of course, this match was a surprisingly win by Oiwa and Kiyomiya when, of course, they won by a countout. So basically, that's how it is. But however, this feud between Kidd and Kiyomiya is far from over. So they get 2 points as well, much like everybody else does. Now our main event, we have a very interesting match. We have Shota Umino once again teaming up with his rival Ren Narita. They take on the United Empire's Great Okan and Hinare. Now, will Narita and Shota Umino coexist? I have to say they did pretty well. But however, it's Great Okan who has problem with guys like them because, Ren Narita, who's been dubbed as the son of Strong Style, Shota Umino, who's been a thorn in the United Empire's side for far too long. You probably would have assumed the United Empire, with all the strength and power, they would have won it. But however, it was a combination by how was his name? Shota Umino with the Blaze Blade, then Death Rider onto Khan to pick up the win, and they get 2 points. So this is a very interesting match. And a very interesting promo was shed by Shota Umino. He felt that because their show started in Korakuen Hall, it wasn't sold out because as them being in the main event, it should have been sold out, but it wasn't. So they said the next time they will make sure that him and Narita will sell out the next show. So I have to say, pretty good start. Uh, Probably will have day 2 coming up real soon. But right now, let's move on. We are done with all our reviews. Let's move on with some news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's get started. Um, Semdai Girls is announced for a very interesting tournament that will be taking place in Shinkiba on the 8th of December. But however, that's not the most important thing that got my attention on that. The one thing that got my attention is one of the matches involved. And that match is Chi-Chi versus Kizuna Tanaka. Now, these two girls have wrestled before during an Evolution show. Now, I wasn't witness to that, but I was well aware throughout social media that this match between those two, their very first encounter, it ended in a time limit draw, which led the indication that Chi-Chi could potentially get her very first win. And of course, we do know she had her first win recently in October during a Suriminatsu anniversary show. But now we're seeing part 2 between these two. So the obvious question is, can Chi-Chi finally pick up the win? Because many people say both these ladies are prospect wrestlers. They are basically have their eyes set on them. So I think this is one of those matches we definitely got to pay attention. Now, our next announcement, West Coast Pro for their monster event that takes place next month on the 3rd of December. We have Ishmael Vaughn taking on the Cajun, the Crazy Cajun, Gia Jewel. Now, matches have been announced for the Ladies Night Out 13 on later on this month on the 26th. Janai Kai will be facing against JC Storm. And of course, another match was announced. Kylan King will face off against Caitlin Marie. Now, as you know, we have the upcoming Combat Princes, which is a collaboration between Prestige Wrestling and Tokyo Pro Wrestling. They have announced for a match on this particular day. Shoko Nakajima will be facing against La Huera Loca, Tile Valkyrie. I think that's going to be a pretty good match to enjoy. Now, next coming up, of course, we have an interesting tag match as it was announced for the GCW Highest in the Room that takes place on the 9th of December. We have Jacob Fatu and Juicy Finau. They take on Mance Warner and Effie. Now, finally, as you guys know, recently, Stardom had sent many of their talent to Thailand. Now they're making another trip, calling this the Bushiroad Expo Asia. So now they'll be heading to Singapore. Now, this was reported by Scott Edwards, so I have the information on this one. Only a few women were involved in this particular day, and this was announced by them. Let me pull it up for all of you. Yes, okay. So today is right now November 20th, so they will be in Singapore on the 24th of this month. So there's 3 days they will be there, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. Now on day 1, match number 1, we have Hazuki versus Tekla versus Azumi. Match number 2, Mei Sita versus Lady C. And then match number 3, Momo Watanabe versus Mina Shirakawa. Now, day 2 on the 25th of November, we have Azumi versus Mina Shirakawa. Match number 2, Lady C versus Tekla. And then, of course, match number 3, a three-way match, Mei Sita, Momo Watanabe versus Azuki. Now, finally, day 3, we have another three-way match, Mei Sita versus Momo Watanabe versus Azumi. And then match number 2, Azuki versus Tekla. And then match number 3, Mina Shirakawa versus Lady C. So basically, we're gonna have Azuki, Tekla, Azumi, Mei Sita, and Lady C, Momo Wanabe, and Mina Shirakawa will be making a trip to Singapore. Now, I haven't seen none of the actual clips for their Thailand show, which only features 4 wrestlers. Of course, it was Mina, Waka, Sudi, and Yuna Mizumori. So I haven't seen any of those. I highly doubt we're gonna see that with this expo. So I wish there was a way we could see that, but fortunately, it will not. So I think that's pretty much it with all of our news updates and reviews. So let's just call it a day. Thank God. Wow. Can't believe I did 7 reviews from 6 different Japanese promotions. 6. I think the biggest review, this is the biggest review I've ever done. 7. The maximum I've ever done, I think, right now for me is 6. Now, many of you may ask me, why couldn't I just cut it in half? I'm like, that would have been an option, but to me, I felt, you know what? Let's do this. I'm going to try to, I'll probably be sleep deprived from this, but it's hell worth it for me. Because I know some of you are big Japanese wrestling fans. If you guys like that, this is why I do this, because I like to review what Japanese wrestling that the world has to offer, so you guys can keep your options open. Who do you want what promotion you guys want to check out? I have to say all promotions are great, including the independent show, freelance independent shows they do and all that stuff. But that's why I do this. Now, coming up for our next episode, we do have Tuesday Wrestling. I've just been well aware that we do have day 2 of World Tag League, so that will be part of Tuesday Wrestling. Of course, we have NWA and then NXT. I haven't decided yet if we're going to do a 4th one due to the fact of how this episode turned out to be for me, but we will see how that progresses from here on out. But for right now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.